And today we're gonna make a tart that is called Pomme by a bakery in San Francisco, and we have made an adaptation for us here in Bouchon, Beverly Hills. So the first thing I'm gonna do is infuse our vanilla and coffee into our cream. Okay. We're gonna take the milk and we're gonna put it on the heat to infuse. So while that comes to a simmer, we're going to start to make the dough. 200 grams of flour, 20 grams of sugar, and a pinch of baking powder and a pinch of salt. We mix around all our dry ingredients. There we take our butter that is cold, we grate it over the flour. And I find this to be a very positive technique when we cut flour and butter together, for us not to overwork the flour and to cut the butter into it in very nice small portions. So we now begin to mix. And we want to do this quickly as not to heat up the butter too much. And we just take our hands and roll it slowly. A lot of patience till you have like a cornmeal texture. We'll make a little well in the middle, and we're gonna add our milk. So we're now gonna incorporate slowly the milk into the flour. You want this process to be as gentle as possible to not create any tension on the dough. This process is very important for us not to have a dough that is chewy and is nice and flaky. And we do it just till it comes together. And that's our dough. Take a little bit of flour. And you want to put just the smallest amount of possible rolling flour that you have, not to burn your dough. Do this as gentle as possible. So then we want to stretch it from the middle out and from the middle back. And that's to even out the tension on the dough, so this tart, as it slightly shrinks, it shrinks evenly. When you start to see the dough, the texture on the table, see through the dough, and that's what we're looking for. So put a little bit, last amount of flour, rub it on the dough. Then we take our tart shell, and then we put a little bit of soft butter on it. Just a nice thin layer. And then you take the dough and you lay it in the back of your hand, pick it up, put it one more time on the table, lay the ring on it, trace about an inch above the ring, and then this way you have a piece of dough that is more manageable. So you take it out one more time, and then we lay it inside the tart. And it's really important to lay the center first, and then to slowly work the edges in. You don't want to create any tension whatsoever when you're doing this. But once you have a nice even wall, you run your finger through it slowly to even out the bottom of the shell. Then when we have that, we take the edges and tuck them down a little bit, and we take a rolling pin, we'll press it onto the dough, and then we roll it forward, and that takes the excess off. Just remove the excess. Yep. Flour the surface again a little bit, run it through the table, and then slowly press the edge in very lightly, because the rolling pin has created a little divot, which you want, so when you press it, it makes the shell a little bit taller. So when we clean it later, we'll still have a nice tall shell. When the tart shell is complete and shaped, we put it in the freezer for 10 minutes so it gets nice and hard. Once we've taken the shell out of the freezer, take a piece of parchment or wax paper, cut it into a square, and then we'll fold it one more time into a triangle, and then once more. And we'll continue that until we have a really skinny strip. So we'll take this, and we'll measure from the center out from the tart shell, and we'll make a decision to cut about half an inch above the tart shell. So you open it, and you have a perfect circle. Now we'll take our tart shell, it's nice and cold, and we'll lay the paper in and slowly tuck in the corners, making sure that we're not pulling on the walls. And we're gonna put our rice in. And then we're gonna press it against the corners. And be as gentle as possible. We're gonna put this in the oven to cook for 25 minutes. We're now going to finish our pastry cream that we have infused our milk, vanilla, and coffee. We take our yolks, pour them into a bowl. We will add half of the sugar to the yolks. And then we're gonna add the second half of the sugar to our milk infusion. And we will now return the milk to the fire. Okay. We're gonna mix it. We'll begin to incorporate our yolks and sugar. And we want to whip our yolks and sugar to a light ribbon. And that's roughly what we're looking for. Now that our milk infusion has come to a simmer again, we're going to temper it into the yolk mixture. And what this will allow us to do is to bring up the temperature in the yolk slowly. That's not to shock it and scramble them. And we'll now fold in our cornstarch slowly. So we're now gonna take the egg mixture and return it back to the pot with the hot milk. We're gonna do half of it, and then we're gonna take the whisk and we're gonna incorporate it. And we're gonna add the remainder amount of our egg mixture. And we're gonna whisk it. We're now gonna return our mixture to the fire and cook it till it thickens over a medium flame. So as it begins to thicken, you wanna pull it off the fire rapidly. You wanna whisk it rapidly so as to it thickens evenly and it doesn't burn. This is a really crucial part. Once the cream is nice and thick, you can bring it back slowly on the fire on a low flame and just cook it for about 30 seconds. When we have a nice rich cream, we'll put it off the fire and then transfer it to a bowl. So we're gonna take a piece of plastic and then put it on top of the custard so it doesn't build the skin while it cools down. So we're now gonna let it cool to 55 degrees Celsius, 130 Fahrenheit, before we add our butter. That's our room temperature. So we're now gonna check on our tart shell that we put in the oven earlier. So we'll remove the rice and we have a nice golden shell. Now our pastry cream is cold enough, we're gonna finish it with the butter. And with a whisk, we're gonna incorporate our butter into our pastry cream. And it's gonna give it a very nice, rich, and creamy texture. Go ahead and take out the vanilla beans, and then any visible coffee beans. Okay. So with a bowl scraper, we'll take out a good amount and just wipe it on the edge of the pastry bag, slowly. And this will allow us to fill our bag without air pockets. Take our bag, we twist it so we give the bag a lot of tension, so when we cut it, we have a lot of control on the bag. Tie it or put a rubber band, and we make it nice and tight. Snip a small portion of it so we have a nice small stream to fill our tart shell. So I like to start in the center and just pipe out slowly. Make sure I'm not leaving any air pockets. Then I'll work my way back in. We'll take our tart shell and we'll flatten it really carefully. And we'll slowly work it from the inside out to make sure we have a nice flat surface. So we'll take any excess off with our finger. Okay. So now that our custard is filled, we're gonna take it and put it in the freezer for about 5 minutes and then get ready to creme brulee. So we're now, with our tart shell, we're gonna creme brulee at the top. So we have our sugar, and we're gonna sprinkle a nice thin layer over the top. You wanna coat it nice and even and coat everything so no parts of it burn. So now that we have our sugar nicely coated over the top of the tart, we're gonna brulee the tart. And when you brulee, you wanna do it nice and slowly so as to not over caramelize any section of the sugar. And there you have it. That is our pomme d'amour.